The first Canadian astronaut to walk in space taught me how to triple my salary in less than a year. But when I picked up Chris Hadfield's book, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, I thought it would just be a fun read. In it was 3 techniques that, when applied, took my income from $94,500 to $289,000. But what it really gave me was a way out. And not from a job, but from a slow death I didn't even realize I was dying from. I was sitting in my cubicle one Tuesday afternoon, waiting for the next meeting to start. 20 minutes to kill. So I pulled out my phone and started calculating that if I watched videos at 2 times speed, I could get through 4 before the meeting started. But before I clicked on my first video, it dawned on me. I was literally calculating how to waste my life most efficiently. More importantly, how to waste liminal space. And this is usually a term that refers to transition zones. Think hotel stairways or the top of a parking garage at night. But the same term can be applied to time also. Those awkward gaps between meaningful activities. Waiting for someone at a coffee shop, the time between meetings, or the post-lunch lull where everyone is a little tired and does nothing. And before, I was treating these spaces as dead time between living, but that dead space was actually killing me slowly. Here's a terrifying math. Those harmless minutes, when added up, can be hours every single day. And over the course of a career, we're talking about years. Years that I could spend writing a book or starting a YouTube channel. But if I kept this up, wasting that liminal space, I would become just another person with a list of what ifs as long as my arm. Corporate purgatory. Even worse, I realized that I was sleepwalking towards a life where I spend 50% of my waking hours working a job that I neither hate nor love. 40 years of quiet desperation broken up by weekends and week-long vacations. And that was my wake-up call. I had to figure out how to use these dead moments, or they would kill my dreams one scroll at a time. And Hadfield talks about how astronauts use every second efficiently because in space, if you don't, it could literally kill you. So I started trying to treat my work days with the same fervor and intensity. So during those 20 minutes, I decided to set a timer and see how much work I could actually get done. And I ended up getting my email inbox down to 0, organizing an upcoming sprint for one of my teams, and scheduling a meeting that I had been putting off for a few days. And when the timer went off, I was shocked. 20 minutes is an extraordinarily long time, but when you're just scrolling on YouTube, it feels like an instant. I felt the power immediately, so I started mapping out all of the liminal space within my days. And it turns out that I was wasting 2 to 3 hours every day, enough time for another job. And quickly, these gaps started to become my superpower. I started to use it to build a branch outside of my current job. I would research companies, send applications, or message recruiters on LinkedIn. And I remember in the first week that I dedicated my liminal space to applying to other jobs, I sent out an additional 130 applications. Instead of watching pointless YouTube videos, I gave myself over 100 extra chances to get lucky. And seeing this, of course, then I made a system. See, along with my regular daily to-do list, I made a micro to-do list. For instance, if I had 2 minutes, I would send out one application. If I had 5 minutes, I would tailor an application for that specific job or send a message to a recruiter. And then if I had 15 minutes, I would write a cover letter to boot. And this created a fundamental shift for me. Time became much more valuable. Once you stop being a passive consumer of time and start to actively architect it, you realize that life isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. These transitional spaces are where our future lives. That's where our escape plan gets built, one task at a time. See, 2 minutes here and 5 minutes there doesn't look like much, but when compounded over a year, you're talking about hundreds or thousands of extra hours of progress. Within 3 months of using this liminal space, to apply for jobs, I'd gotten 17 job offers and accepted one of them. Turns out that Miles Davis was right. Music is the space between notes. And once you see liminal space for what it really is, raw potential disguised as dead time, it's very hard to go back to mindless scrolling. Because now you know that every wasted moment is a small betrayal of the person that you might become. But weaponizing time is not enough. See, I never quit my first job when I accepted the second job offer. So now working 2 full-time jobs at the same time, I needed Hadfield's second technique, mastering the art of invisibility. Hadfield describes a rating system for his coworkers with 3 tiers. -1, or people who actively detract from the team, +1 for people who make everyone around them better, and then 0, people who neither detract nor improve. And conventional wisdom says to be that +1. Be the star, stand out, get promoted. But in my line of work, being a +1 puts a target on my head. It invites more work, more scrutiny, and +1s are the type of people to get pulled into 6 p.m. meetings on a Friday and be the person that everyone turns to when shit hits the fan. In order for me to sustain working 2 jobs at the same time, I had to be a 0. Reliable, but unremarkable. Competent, but not exceptional. And present, but not memorable. This sounds depressing until you realize what it gives you. Freedom. You discover the superpower of strategic blandness. Important enough to stay employed, but boring enough for no one to bother you. And that gives you time. And with this time, I documented exactly what good enough looked like. I built templates, workflows, and automations that would all deliver consistent results without heroic effort. And the goal wasn't to be mediocre forever, it was to be systematically excellent in a way that was invisible to management. And that allowed me to get my third job. 3 income streams and 3 ways to fuck it all up. And this is where Hadfield's third technique became my mantra. Hadfield learned as a test pilot that when you're flying along at 600 miles per hour, death could come from anywhere. Ice forming on the wings, a bird running through the engines, or a fuel pump malfunctioning over the ocean. So during your training, you are told to constantly ask one question. What's the next thing that could kill me? And this helps with 2 things. The first thing being priorities. It helps you figure out what the most important thing at the moment is. And the second thing is that it keeps you aware of the present moment. It's hard to be unvigilant when your life is at stake. And this was all great training for Chris's next job as an astronaut. You're out in the vacuum of space, nobody can hear you scream, and you are working on the most complicated technology in existence. So Hadfield learned to excessively categorize and catalog every single failure point. Then they would run simulations on each one of those to make sure that the astronauts know exactly what to do in the moment of crisis. I took this and spun it for my situation, and at work, I asked myself, what is the next thing that could get me fired? And the list was longer than I expected. It could be from conflicting meetings where I unmute by accident, missing a critical deadline, being unavailable during core hours, declining work quality over time. And for each one of these failure points, I tried to make a system that decreased the likelihood of it happening. To make sure I didn't miss deadlines, I worked backwards from every due date, building in enough buffer time, and then setting automated reminders to make sure that I don't forget them. Because particularly with 3 jobs, my memory was not dependable. To make sure I was available during key times, I blocked identical focus time across all 3 meetings, and I would schedule fake meetings to avoid most conflicts. Now, eventually I would drop the ball, and I made sure to have an excuse spreadsheet handy with columns for dates to make sure that I wasn't reusing the same excuses too frequently. And for quality control, I created templates and checklists for everything, ensuring consistent outputs even when I'm tired. The goal wasn't to be paranoid, it was to be systematic. 6 months later, I was still employed at all 3 companies, now making $289,000. And I had gotten my total workload down to less than 40 hours a week. And I don't think any of this would have been possible without Hadfield's 3 strategies. Most people are sleepwalking through their careers one liminal space at a time, aiming to be ones at jobs that will never love them back, and completely unprepared for the things that could destroy them. But you don't have to accept that fate. The astronaut approach isn't sexy, but it works. And it could be the difference between spending 40 years climbing someone else's ladder and building your own escape route. Choose wisely. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to start optimizing for freedom instead of applause.